First thing is approval of minutes, August 18th.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of August 18th with one editing correction if I can find it. Between page 2 and 3, it says that Gordon made the motion and seconded it. So I'm not sure which.
Which, 2 and 3?
Between 2 and 3. There were two sets of motions that took place. I think Gordon made both of them. I seconded one of them. Maybe I seconded them both, I'm not sure, but it says that he made the motion and seconded it. So
Somebody else.
there has to be somebody else somehow.
Yeah, I think it was Richard.
Okay.
Just for clarity.
Yeah. Yeah. He can't make it in seconds.
He's not supposed to.
You can try.
Well, yeah.
Okay. Any other additions, corrections? Okay, so all those in favor of approving the minutes as corrected?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next is additions to the agenda. I had 4. First is West Cornwall sidewalk with Roger Kane. Second is summer paving.
Summer paving?
Summer paving,
Okay.
current paving. Third is West Cornwall Covered Bridge Rehabilitation Program. And 4th is Lamb Kiefer survey estimate of cost.
Of cost of what?
Of the survey.
The survey of what?
Survey of the town right of way on River Road
Okay.
adjacent to Push'em Up Farm.
I'd like to add dirt road maintenance.
Okay. Anything else?
I'll second those additions.
Okay. Any discussion? The only thing is when Roger is currently at the Inland Wetlands Commission meeting, so when he's coming over, when they're done, so we'll just put him on when he comes over.
Sure.
And then the other ones we'll put at the end of the agenda, as we normally do. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Communications. We did get one from the chore service, and just to, they thank us for the town support, and they did say that they are currently, or in the last year, serviced 37 families. They have 17 workers from Cornwall, and those workers earned over $94,000 providing that essential service to people in Cornwall. So that program continues to be a very important one for people in town. So anyway, I'm glad it's still going along. Any other communications? Public comments? Any public comments?
Did you not get communications from anyone else about West Cornwall sidewalks?
I did, and I thought I'd have those under the agenda item.
Okay, so you do have other communications.
Yeah.
What about the communication from the Wish House about the drainage situation down there?
Is that current?
It's from July 24th, but we haven't done anything
Right.
with it,
We haven't
so.
done anything with it.
Just said,
I've looked
yeah,
at it.
we looked at it.
Right, and we're currently wrapping up our paving program, and we probably can have Jim see what we can do once we get all this loose ends tidied up.
Okay. And I don't know if it would be communications or not, but I was reading through the planning and zoning minutes, and at some point in time, they said that the Board of Selectmen was working on progress on abandoned roads,
Right, they referred us,
but we haven't really talked much about it, so.
no, and we can put that on as a future agenda item.
Okay.
Gordon,
Yeah,
what's going on with Popple Swamp?
Popple Swamp
The wa-
itself,
The water is way down.
yeah, I'm not entirely sure, but
Oh.
I did go out and looked after someone told me it was way down, and
Yeah,
like
right.
everywhere else, I think it's a result of the drought.
That's what it is.
There is water still going through the overfill pipe. The dam has not been breached as far as I can tell.
Oh,
And I did
okay.
refer that concern to Karen, who did contact the engineer that's handling the dam repair. But it looked like, just like everywhere else, it's just
Just
getting
the drought.
a result of the drought.
You mean
Okay.
Nash Pond on Papa Swamp? Or?
Yeah, it's way down.
Right.
It's,
It's amazing, there was still water going out of it, so.
right.
Had they lowered the,
I
Well,
don't know.
they did lower it, but I don't think they lowered it that much.
Right, so anyway, the engineer that's supposed to be working on the repairs knows about it, so we did, and I told
Okay.
Karen, so it just seemed that that's, like everywhere else, it's getting dry.
Just that. All right, good.
Okay?
Yep.
Any other public comments?
So Gordon, if you're going to introduce those communications about the sidewalk, will we be able to participate in the discussion about the sidewalks when it comes up on the agenda?
I think we can do that, especially if we can get through some of these other things
Thank you.
quickly before Roger comes. Okay, so, back to the agenda, we have a quote from the Cornwall Fuel Co-op. They again went out to bid, selected Bantam Fuel Energy, gave us, in addition to a bunch of Cornwall residents to participate, a couple options. The first thing is we could go out to bid ourselves. Last year we decided to go with the co-op because that would also increase their buying power and give townspeople a break. First thing we should...
it's a lot better price than last year.
A lot better price than last year. It seemed like a friendly price. I mean, I think the first decision is to go with the co-op or not. Any thoughts on that? I mean, I'd be in favor of doing that because I think it does help people in town, whereas we just go out by ourselves, we may help ourselves, we may not even get a better price on this.
Go with that for which option?
Well, the first question is to go with it at all, and the second one, I mean, we could,
Well, I think
we don't have to go with any,
there's three options.
Well, it's sort of the whole discussion, I think that's
we do not have to go with co-op if we don't.
the buildings involved are the
Yeah.
office, the town hall,
Firehouses.
both firehouses and the town garage.
Right.
5 buildings.
Yeah.
And do we use them for their other aspects, cleaning the boilers? I can't remember who's been doing that. Cleaning and repairing them, or any,
It's still, yeah, it's several different companies do that, depending on, some of it depends on who installed the boiler. If like Declan Beebe's installed some, then we let them keep on maintaining it, because they know they're familiar with it, and if something happens, they know the deal. So,
and we still get them cleaned once a year,
Right.
and do all that's the standard stuff that
Yeah.
each one has its own twist and turn to it.
Do you have a number?
The number is, option A, fixed price, floating price, currently 179.9. This price will go up or down. Let's see, the next price is the cap price, same as the price above, plus 17 cents on all deliveries. So if we bought that today, we would it cap the price at $1.10 or $2.10. So the cap price maximum would go up to $2.27. And then option C is a fixed price of $2.10, 10.5 cents. So, just, I don't know, I can keep talking now, I don't think it makes any sense to go with the floating price.
Roll the dice.
Price still can go down, it's pretty far down right now with the cap price. You may pay, if it goes up a little bit, you may pay as much as $2.27. So if we go with the fixed price, we know what we're going to pay is $2.10. And I would think it's between B and C myself, but if anybody has strong feelings, they can argue for A, roll the dice.
Yeah, if you're
What's
gonna
your
go
feeling?
with A, you may as well just don't sign a contract. I mean, you could do that with anybody, get 32 cents on the price off in New Haven. So you're right, B or C is the better option.
So the capped price option is a floating price with a maximum cap.
Right.
And you
Yeah.
pay a premium for that.
And the cap price may be more than the fixed price. It goes up. Right now, it looks like the price
At
goes up.
$2.27,
Right.
it's not a lot more.
Right.
But what it allows you is if the price stays at 179.
To pay that instead of the
So
210.
Well,
if
actually,
it was
you
at
pay-
179, it'd be plus 17.
So you pay $1.97.
Yeah, 197.
So you'd be paying 13 cents. 13 cents under, 17 cents over.
Yeah, as I said.
I don't have any problem with just going with 210 and a half, just because.
It's more than $1 less than we paid last year.
Right.
I think.
But they're expecting prices to go down, so why wouldn't we go with B? Hope for the lower prices, and even if it did go up, we would only pay
Right.
$2.27.
Yeah. We could, I don't really care.
I
I
know,
mean,
like you
How
said.
many gallons do you use?
somewhere around 10,000. So it's a real amount. Roughly 2,000 gallons per building. So. All right, so we want to go with B? I'm willing to go with B. Is there a motion? Go with B?
Maybe we go with option B on the
Cornwall.
oil co-op, Cornwall Fuel Oil Group Co-op.
Right.
What did we do last year? Did we go with the cap or the?
We went with the fix.
Yeah, so I think we went fixed last year because nobody knew really what was going on last year. Yeah, and this year they're planning, or they're predicting
It's going down.
lower
which means-
prices.
Which means it'll go up. That's it. That's fine.
This absolutely means that the prices are gonna go up, now that I made this motion, just so
Right.
everyone knows.
Okay, but it's capped.
Oh, the
It is capped at least.
It's kind of protected on the high side.
It is on the high side.
Okay, any more discussion?
Did you have a second?
I'll second that. All in favor? Aye. Next item is building inspector files. We've been shopping for fireproof cabinets. Paul needs 32 feet. We found the best price from officefurniture.com. Quite a bit of variance. Some of them, other companies charge $600 for these. There's a couple companies under 1,000. So we went with this group. It's by Fire King, which is well known company. Underwriters Laboratory, class 350. 1 hour. These things are heavy, 435 pounds. Vertical piles weigh over 1,200 pounds, which nobody wanted to think about. So these are palletized, so I did talk to Northeast Building Supply, and they have a way to unload it if it goes down to their building, so, and we'd have the crew get a dolly and move it into Paul's office.
How
So we
many
need
is
4.
Okay.
We need 4.
And where is his office? Is it lower level, like so
Yeah.
the floor will support
I assume so. He's the
Yeah.
building inspector, he knows.
basement level?
Right, he is,
I hope.
yeah, it's only, well, 1,600 pounds. Okay, so I make a motion that we buy Paul 4 fireproof files from officefurniture.com with free shipping.
How much are they?
$9.89 a piece. The state does not have a bid for fireproof cabinets.
Saving
$9.89 a piece.
What?
How much, rounded off?
It's $1,000 a piece. So 4,000,
And they
for five.
arrive within a couple of weeks?
couple weeks.
I'd be freighted with the weight that they are.
Right.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Uh,
Aye. Okay. In exchange for in Paul's some files, he has been working on town hall insulation. John Laporta has been working on repointing the town hall. That's going well. We had a couple of quotes, and Paul recommends the quote from US Insulation, which is $29.85. This is to insulate the area under Vera's office.
So what's that?
So that's a different quote. He mismeasured. This $9,000 quote is a tear-up because he did not measure it correctly. So here's this new quote which Paul recommends.
Is that what this, must be this one?
Right.
So this,
So you have,
So we have US Insulation and Alves Insulation
Right.
are the only two options.
so what are they doing? They're doing block, they're doing foam? Or is that, or maybe they're not doing foam. That looks like foam.
yeah, I think it says,
These are all physical properties.
so they're actually doing the attic area. They're doing the attic area, and they're doing the crawl space. R19, no, R49. So they're putting foam in the crawl space, and it looks like fiberglass upstairs. Blowing upstairs, R49. So the good thing about this insulation project is it should be we had that Bright Ideas grant of $5,000, some of this should be covered under that. And then there's a question of the pipes up there. And they need to be addressed. Here's Deck and BB.
Just that they're really what?
They're gonna wrap the pipes.
And
Yeah,
did they
here's
do
this.
that,
This came in this afternoon. from
did they do that before to
Right.
insulate the
Paul.
attic or the crawl space?
Right.
And their bid is $1,200. Oh, I got two different sets.
So that's all,
So
That's
Decorative BB is $12.88 to do that, but US insulation is $7.50.
right,
488 plus the next page, so plus 3,000. I think there's two pages. Maybe. This is cover 150 feet of
Pipe.
three-quarter
right,
in the boiler room.
yeah.
Some's in this crawl space, some in the boiler room. This is the same one.
Well, this says US insulation, written quote to follow, quote for covering pipes and attic crawl space and furnace room $7.50. So do we
Right.
have that?
I think that's, he said it was, they, verbal quote, but he recommends we go,
So the written quote to follow we don't have yet.
we don't have that yet.
That's attic crawl space.
But he recommends we go with decorative BB.
Out of these areas, required for new, required, suggested for existing. What are you doing for new work? Seems to say most of the same stuff, except this one says something about covered with zesting, plastic coverage.
Crawl space boiler.
Yeah, the question is, yeah, what does it all know?
Does main job, that's.
So are the two different quotes a matter of if you're gonna go with the foam covering as opposed to fiberglass covering?
The, for Decker,
Yeah. Right, because that's what it looks like the difference is. Cover it with foam covering, cover it
Right.
with fiberglass pipe covering.
yeah, I don't know whether, yeah, whether these are both necessary or whether it's just one or the other. So we'll need to clarify that before we can
Yes.
do it.
Yeah, I get the written quote from US
Right.
Insulation, is
It's-
exactly what they're gonna do. Is this mine or is this yours?
That's all, yeah, here it is.
Oh, no.
Does not normally wrap pipes. All right, so what I'll do is I'll come back, go through this with Paul and find out exactly, because the problem is there's 4 different areas. The town office has been added to 4 times, so it gets a little confusing on what area we're actually working on.
My understanding, one was, this one was wrapping it as if it was a new construction, new building, and Paul said it isn't.
Right,
This is the quote for, I guess because it's not a whole new construction,
You
new
can-
building,
you
they
don't-
wrap it differently or
Right.
something.
oh,
That's
okay,
why
I can use the foam instead of the
So
fiberglass.
that's why the difference.
Okay. got it. And did he have a recommendation which one, he said you could do the other one?
Paul said we could do this one, yeah.
Right,
I
okay.
thought perfectly fine.
Okay,
I think foam would be better, huh?
all right.
So that's the one that's the one that we're going to,
Question.
or accept, that's the one we want to
Right.
accept.
Paul's recommendation was to use the Decker and BB to wrap the pipes as they do it for a living. They're plumbers, whereas the other guys are basically installation companies and aren't plumbers, so we felt more comfortable with the plumbing company wrapping the pipes in the installation company. That's why he went with a higher bid of $12.88 as opposed to 750.
And then some different beavers used to the building, so they do the work over there.
And I think we have to wrap before or after installation. Don't know.
I would think you'd wrap
Well,
it
you
before.
wrap the
Right.
pipes before you put in insulation.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
That's a lot of estimates.
Okay.
So are they gonna do this like on a Friday or something, since it
Yeah.
says you must be uninhabited for 24 hours?
Right.
Not true of the pipe installation, though, I think that can be done,
Yeah, no, that's the other stuff,
the foam.
the US insulation guys.
Right.
Okay, so I think, are we clear about all this, or do we want more clarification? We have a recommendation to use US insulation for $29.85, and a recommendation to use Decker and BB for $12.88.
And just to reiterate, what we're getting for this, Decker and BB is going to wrap the piping,
Right.
and US insulation is going to do the crawl space under the main section,
Yeah.
under Vera, and then maybe the foam, and then the attic, with something else, which covers which parts?
The attic goes over Vera's office, and then there's a,
Goes over,
don't worry, go across.
It's from the scuttle hole to the back gable wall.
Right, and you have a separate bid there for that crawl space. Right.
That's the access. I do. somewhere.
Right, and then we have a separate quote to do that other wing of $27.
So,
So that's this one here, this is for the Karen Nelson wing of the building.
We need a little plaque.
It's
Yeah.
like a bad movie.
this is wrong. Let's measure it. Not seeing that 2,700.
Here's this car, so this is getting you into the other part of it.
So this is the other part of the building?
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so just, here's the
500.
building right here now.
Right.
This is the building. This is the main section right here. This is
Yep.
Vera.
Yep,
We come in right here.
yep,
Is that right? Yeah.
yep,
Somewhere
Pretty much.
here.
yep,
So they're gonna insulate under here,
yep.
and the attic is only over here? Or
The attic is
all
over
this?
here, then the second bid that Heidi's looking at covers this area.
For the crawl or for the attic?
I think it's crawling in attic. isn't it?
Well, we do wanna make sure he's bidding on the right thing.
Right, and Paul's walked through it with the vendors.
Okay. So we are,
So we have in play, 1288 from Beckner Beebe, 29 for the Vera office area, and 2500 or 2700 for the Nelson.
So, this 2500,
Right, 2500.
it's this hashed area,
Yeah.
because then you get this 2985, that also includes that same hashed area. So we're missing this part.
Well, that's the new part, so I don't think.
Maybe
Yeah.
one is the attic.
I
maybe
think that's
this is
the attic, so we're just,
Why are they doubled?
this
Maybe one's
is,
crawl and one's attic.
Yeah, this is
Attic
just-
and the crawl
this is
space.
just the crawl space.
And you can't get out this attic area.
So
And
it's
this,
$2,500 just to do that.
right, some of that is taking out the existing insulation.
Okay.
And I think, is this the foam? I think that's the foam also.
Soy plus, yes.
Right, the foam is typically more expensive.
Yeah, what was the foam for the other part?
So 2,500 for the foam is the price.
Yeah, maybe divide it out. Alright, so that's that. So where is the land use office portion of this thing?
That's going to be the crawl space for the 2,500. And I think the attic gets done out of the other quote.
2,500 is the nut, is under the
Nelson
PNC,
crawl space.
crawl
So
space.
it's this part too.
No, this is the crawl, no?
Yeah, it's this part here. This is the vault. That's Karen in the parking lot. And this here, luckily, these two buildings are slab on grade. Those two additions are slab on grade, so they don't have to worry about the
So what is this? Where do we come in?
There's
Here?
the entrance is right here. The entrance is right here. You go
Okay.
into Vera.
No, so
This
these
is,
are the other offices.
this is
This
vault.
is Vera.
Yeah, this-
This is
these are
land use.
relatively not modern.
This is the vault.
I got it.
Right.
See, this says fixed access.
Right.
Get a quote from John the Porter. I'm thinking this is access from outside,
Right.
but it's not.
That's a
We're
separate.
accessing here. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
1,288 for the pipes, 2,900 for the attic,
Yeah.
2,500 for the crawl space.
Correct.
The attic, we're not quite sure the exact part we're talking about, but we,
It's pretty much all both of those attic areas.
the main part,
Yeah.
probably over the PNC area, or
Right.
maybe even the
Yeah,
closest part.
I would assume it's everything in those two sections.
And when can they do it?
Soon.
Good. That'll reduce our oil bill.
Right. Even further. And as I said, hopefully we can get $5,000 or more of this back. So I'll make a motion that we accept Paul's recommendations in these three bids, Decker BV and US Insulation.
I'll second.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Carefully put this.
You may have taken a few of my sections.
That takes some second.
You
I
take it
got
all.
this, I got this.
I am sure.
Take some of those.
Can I have that? Heat
So
soy,
there's one,
we have heat
obviously
soy.
something that you have there, there's one quote and one piece of information that was,
There's the 900 and the 1600 with the map. There's the 2985 with all this extra information, blah, blah, blah. That was in my package.
I know, but I think that was,
That was mine, it was all in my folder. I should have it too.
it's okay, I'll get another
Okay, so,
It's in here.
the note that said, hatchway, see John Laporte note. On the eastern wing of the building, under near where Karen sits, there is a original detail, it looks like it never really got finished, which is a hatchway that gets you underneath that part of the building. There's a block wall, because where Vera sits, and the vault was the original 1940 part of the building. Then the Nelson wing was put on, then where Barbara Bigos was put on, and then 20 years ago we put on where Jill and the little lunchroom is. So there, you can't get from underneath Vera's desk to underneath Karen's desk. So there is a hatchway, which is this laid up loose block, and what used to be some sort of cover. So John Laporta has done an estimate on bringing that up to speed and code with Paul's approval. So this would demolish the north side of the concrete hatchway, construct a new north wall hatchway, pin block to footing, pour solid block, stucco interior and exterior fiberglass reinforced stucco, backfill block, install pressure treated sill plates to hatchway, install pressure treated frames. So right now there's no real formal cover on these laid up blocks, and this would put also a cover on it so it would be weather tight. So we can act on that. I mean, I understand this is new, we can all look at this in the daytime. It's hard to appreciate it here at the desk, but it needs to be done. It doesn't have to be done immediately, but I thought as we were talking about things.
Yeah, have you looked into doing like a precast concrete hatch
It's so small,
and a Bilco door?
seemed like, I could get an estimate for that, see what you could do, but it's a fairly small area.
They do that right in New Milford, right? Just cast concrete,
Just drop it right in place.
yeah.
You have to dig the hole out though. You probably have to remove the blocks that are there.
You gotta anyway, excavate and demolish
Uh-huh.
what's there now.
So, who does that? Is there a place in Milford?
I've just seen it
Precast?
on Route 7, there's the Milford block and something. Don't they precast? I'm sure there's other companies too.
Alright.
What's his bid total on the bottom?
2,900.
I do think it would be a good
They
idea
actually
to get one of the buildings fairly completed.
Yeah. Well,
Fairly completed, I'm not
Right.
saying totally completed, because there's always one more.
yeah, so right now we have $40,000 in capital projects for town building repairs. We've got about $10,000 already allocated towards pointing this building, doing the garage chimney. That brings us down to $30,000. Tonight we've obligated another roughly $10,000. We also have a bid out to redo the windows. And by next meeting I will have an answer on, hopefully we can charge some of this towards these, that clean energy grant. So, that will put us
Yeah, it sounds
back.
like
But once we
some
get
of
the,
them you could, yeah.
once we get I think once we get this trap door and we get the windows, we'll be in decent shape. Probably need some place some shingles. We gotta do the downspouts here, but just getting this place pointed is, for $9,000 is a huge, that could have been lots. So I think we're there, and then later in the agenda, next thing we have is, there's another Building Energy Technical Assistance Grant, which may, according to Kate Frygang, will make us eligible for another $5,000 in energy conservation building grants. So, but anyway, that's the next item. Have we?
I'd
So
make a motion that we
Well-
accept this bid and just move along and start. The crawl space is as big as this table, isn't it? Maybe a little bigger?
The crawl space underneath?
Not the crawl space, the hatchway.
The hatchway.
The hatchway is very small.
Right. So you'd have to make it quite a bit bigger one to accommodate a standard build door.
I mean, whatever it is, it's just sort of a little, it's a narrow thing to get down.
Right.
To get in, it's not that, as I remember, I don't think it's that deep either.
No, it's probably 3, 4 by 4, 3 by 3, something like that. All right, so I'll second that.
In the bid of Narrow Valley.
Narrow Valley
For $2,900.
to button up the door. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of accepting the bid for $2,900 to button up the door? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
I'll abstain for not having enough time to review the information.
Okay. All right. Next on the agenda is building energy systems. So we got a thing here. Yeah, I think I sent you a copy of this. It says, letter of commitment for the municipal benchmarking technical assistance initiative. And basically this is run through Eversource, which used to be, Eversource apparently, according to Kate Fragang, is taking over a lot of the things that the Clean Energy Fund used to fund. And we're already signed up as a, Clean Energy Community, where we got the original $5,000 grant, and if we go with this, they will also help us with benchmarking and working on a upgrade of a under insulated building. And I think we've got one that we're sitting in right now.
Where do you see that in the information that we have?
Towards the bottom of the first page, assist consultant with monitoring municipal building energy uses and energy performance to identify inefficient buildings to be considered for energy evaluations and upgrades.
Is an email from Kate Friday?
This is, it looks like this.
So we would, by signing up for this letter of commitment, what happens? We get a study done, or
We get a study done, we have a consultant come in, we re-energize the energy committee to look at the energy use of all the town buildings. We look at somewhere, we have to appoint a green team or something, but we sort of have a energy committee anyway.
Isn't there some track record already in play of the different buildings and how we're using energy?
Right, we've done some baseline before.
Yeah, so like, we've already done some of this green energy stuff.
Right.
So do we
This is
need
another
to
round.
then do an additional 20% on what we've already done? Or based on where we were however many years ago?
I think this is 20% total.
Because says
So-
we're committing to reduce our municipal building energy consumption by 20% by
Right.
2018.
Well, I'll ask what the start
Right,
is.
so if that building's already zero, right, their
Right.
energy consumption is zero,
Right.
do we then have to reduce it another 20%?
Our
Well-
our electrical consumption is zero.
Right. So we're looking good if we started in 2010, but not so good if we start now. But
Right.
it will,
So that would be the question.
again, if we insulate all these buildings, we're gonna be able to do some of this. But anyway, I will find we can, I'll find out the baseline year. And
I would
understand
also
there's a
say
lot
that
of.
the energy use would be the combination of electric,
Right,
oil, propane if you were using it. It wouldn't,
Oh, sure.
right, that's what it says, it's all types of things, not
oh,
just
yeah,
electric.
It does say down there. You would think they wouldn't punish you for getting a head start and being ahead of the curve.
Right, you think. All right,
So
so,
it's a good thing to check.
all right, I'll see what the baseline year is, and then I'll also find out, because nowhere in here did I see about the $5,000, so I'll find out when that comes into play. And can we apply that for, because we've just spent whatever it is on insulations, 9,000 or something. If we spend another 5 or something on windows, can we use, what can we use this other 5 for?
And we'd want them to take the benchmark before we insulate
Right,
and put the windows in.
yeah, got it.
Which probably would just be how much oil did you use last year?
Right,
That's the benchmark.
yeah. Okay, any other questions about municipal benchmarking? Okay, so we'll put that on our next item. Okay. Next is,
So when we gonna?
I hope we can have something, I hope we can have this on, we'll have it on our agenda next time, and hopefully we can get it all organized and signed off for next time.
Right. So you just have to look into those questions.
Yeah,
Or look for the answers.
yeah. Next, we got two things. One, we got a $2,200 grant from the Cornwall Foundation for Cornwall's social services. Jill applied for this. And then there's also a letter from the Cornwall Foundation President, Andrea Geiser, asking this Cornwall Selectmen review the adequacy of social service support in Cornwall and offer financial support for such a review. So I did talk to Mr. Geiser and said, I think this is a good idea. But as our social service agent is currently on vacation, we'd wait till she got back. And I wanted to make sure this was a cooperative effort and not really an audit as much as a cooperative effort to see where things are at for social services.
Yeah, I mean, Jill's been asking for 2 years for more time in that office. We gave her 50% of what she asked for 2 years ago. I mean, you want to spend a lot of money on a review of existing social services? And it might make more sense just to give her the extra hours that she thinks she needs to do the work.
Well, I think we've given her the extra hours.
We gave her half the hours that she asked for.
Yeah, we increased it this.
We did
this
not
spring.
increase this year.
So anyway, I
We
don't,
increased 2 years ago. We
I
did
think-
not increase this
I
year.
think the letter says they will help. I don't think we're gonna pay a lot of money to do this, as much as having a cooperative effort to look at what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely, but I know that she asked for whatever it was 2 years ago in her budget, and we gave her half of it. And this year we gave her no increase, it was the same as it was 2 years ago.
And then when there was a greater workload, we did put more money into that.
2 years
Around
ago. Well,
this
yeah,
spring,
she
this
did,
spring, when the
she
workload
did
came
request
up,
the extra work.
and we did put money.
You're right, she did,
Right, so
so that was good.
please correct your comments.
No,
Right.
you're right, but I'm saying just in the budget itself, we didn't increase her
Right.
budget.
But we have worked with her
We
when
did,
she,
yeah.
when she's seen an increased work.
I would just rather see the money go toward
Right, I don't see us spending town
where
money
it
to
needs
do
to be
this,
than
but
just reviewing.
I think if they want to become more aware of what some of the needs are, and they can use some of their financial resources to help meet those needs,
Yeah, that'd be
then
great.
we'll work cooperatively with them and Jill to do it,
Good.
okay? All right, any other thoughts on that?
You didn't put a date on this letter, do you know when it came in?
Received on August 17th. Housatonic Railroad spraying. I did tour the tracks with Roberta Willis, and met with some West Cornwall homeowners last week. And saw some of the trees there seem to be extensively sprayed. We did get a bunch of information on what they're spraying. Roberta Willis, is looking at the legislation as far as how in Massachusetts they regulate spraying on railroad tracks as opposed to what we do here. And it's much more rigorous control of spray in Massachusetts than it is here. My thought is we should ask the railroad to not spray any additional spray, as everything seems to be pretty well dead this fall. And while we evaluate what's going on there, Roberta said she had talked to the railroad and they would agree to doing that, but I think it's good just to push the issue with her. And we did get correspondence, I think I passed on, from Senator Chapin, who's also concerned about the issue. So I would like us to join with our representatives in writing a letter asking for no further spraying, at least for the rest of this year, until we get a handle on what was used, what the damage is to the abutting property owners' property. It looks like some of the spraying may have gone off the right of way, or at least the effects have.
Can't imagine they would need any more.
Right, I'm sure they'll agree.
It's pretty bad.
It's pretty well
I'm
done.
sure they will agree to this because there was no more need for spraying this year.
Okay, so I
But we
will,
still should write.
yeah, I will draft a letter and send it around to our representatives and to you guys, and maybe we can sign off on that next meeting.
Would any of the other area towns
I,
want to be added on that?
I don't know.
Or CC'd on that? Or?
Yeah. Yeah, spraying, speaking of spraying, item number 7, invasive plant spraying. I did talk to tree warden Fred Scoville, who recommended I talk to Skip Kosciuszko, who is licensed to spray invasive plants. I did talk to Skip, and he recommended that we spray in May when he sprays most of these plants, instead of doing it now. He finds, his experience has found that that's more effective in knocking the plants down.
Do you have the location of those?
We had a letter from Art Ginger, which I plan to update, and talk to him if he's got any more. There are, and this would also give us time to consult with the budding property owners. There's, what is there? Japanese knotweed on Town Street, rattlesnake, that I know of. Where else?
Green Hill, too, isn't it?
Some on Cream Hill. There's the hogweed, which is much more serious, on Popple Swamp and River Road. So that's what I know about, but I'm sure Art is into this, so we'll get an updated list from him. But I think that's, and Skip said also that would be much less expensive if we did it when he normally does it, as opposed to setting up his old rig now. But I think that's sort of a prudent thing, and now it'll give us time to talk to the abutting landowners, set an example. And
Would it
And it's a tricky thing too, because in some places, this has gone off the right of way into people's property. So I propose, I don't know whether we work with them or how that works, but it doesn't stop at the end of at the property line.
Well, the knotweed is a problem,
Right.
but the hogweed
Hogweed
is dangerous.
I've never seen it, I want to see
So
it.
those are,
Right.
they're sort of two different
Right.
categories. One's a problem and sort of aggressive in its movement, but the other one is downright dangerous if you come in contact with
Yeah,
it.
like you can't touch it. Yeah, no, I know.
Right.
People have said, oh, don't touch hogweed. I had to go to the hospital, I got burned.
But there's, I was looking, not the, hogweed looks like something else.
Looks like,
Cow parsnip, is that?
yeah, wild mustard.
Well, like cow parsnip, which is also not that good to touch either. Also, I think it's wild parsnip.
No, it's smaller, but I don't, it doesn't burn you though, but it does
I
spread
think
around a
it
lot.
can, I think if wild parsnip can also cause sensitivity to sunlight.
Oh, so if you got it on you, then the sunlight would give you like a burn, sunburn?
Yeah.
That's what the hogweed does, yeah.
The hogweed, I think, just outright burns you.
Well, it makes you sensitive to sun.
And then you're subsequently sensitive to sun for
Wow,
weeks.
okay.
I think the hogweed will actually, will create a
Reaction.
reaction that you need to go to see medical attention.
Right, that's what I heard.
It's not a way past poison ivy.
Yeah.
Okay, so, next is water cistern in Cornwall Bridge. Consulted with Chief Scoville. He feels that the best site for a cistern in West Cornwall is
Cornwall Bridge.
Is opposite the rug shop on that leg of the triangle, approximately here. The store, I think, being there, rug shop there, sort of to the side of the Christmas tree.
I think actually that's the post office.
That's the post office.
That's the road.
Okay, across from the post office. It's right by the pedestrian sign right there.
Who's
So
this? No, that's Fred's recommendation or Sam's?
that was Fred's thought of where it was. There is talk of also upgrading fire access to the river, which would take a little more work because you've got the railroad in between the river and things. But I don't think there's any harm in applying to the state to find out. They may not even want us to put something right there. They might say put it over here. So I think my thought is to apply at this point and see what they say. It's interesting, you can see they own a very wide right-of-way around that triangle. I've heard they acquired extra property when and if, probably not in our lifetime, they have to replace that bridge. But they own quite a bit of land around there. But anyway, I'll talk to them, get the approval as quick as possible. The fire department, we have a quote of the tank alone would be $20,000. We have a $30,000 budget at this point. But it may not, if we use a local contractor or a generous contractor, it may not cost us 10 to bury. It would have a fill and suction pipe on it.
There's no grants available for such things?
Not that I'm aware of. I could talk to Stan, but I haven't heard of any of those.
Fred was just making this is his recommendation.
Right.
Wherever it was, or however it ended up, he'd be.
Right. He felt this would be closer to there's more exposures there. So,
Easier access.
If the issue was using this for a building farther down or farther, a half mile away, and part of the reason for having it here that was brought up was that it has the best access for lining up a couple of tankers
right,
to move to transport the water.
right.
I guess the advantage is that the buildings right here are all immediately available.
The problem too is they're so close together. That's the biggest concern. whereas a lot of residential properties are farther spaced out.
Where's the water coming from that's gonna fill that?
It would just sit in there, similar to the tank at Bonnybrook. It would just be filled. There's one at Cougar and one at Bonnybrook,
So-
10,000 gallons.
From a well, from the river, from,
Oh, they would just fill it with a couple of tankers. Our tankers carry 2,500 gallons.
so as
So
you
it-
draw from it, it's not refilling?
Correct. It would just be,
You'd have to refill after
Right.
your event?
I mean, the thought is that this would give you the equivalent of 4 tankers for an immediate knockdown, and then you'd have mutual aid companies coming with more tankers, and then you'd have time to set up water from the river or whatever the dump should
But
be.
then once that event is over, you need to refill?
Correct.
Okay.
But yeah, there's one of these down at Cougar. I think there's one at Bonnybrook too, that runs a sprinkler, hooked into the sprinkler. So, anyway, I said, we'll find out what the state has to say about that. Okay? So I'll apply to the state. Next is, oh, Roger is here. Snuck in.
Yep.
Good. All right, so we added this to the agenda. We got, right. So, Roger's been investigating sidewalks. We put out a request for proposals, and we got a couple of bids back. So, Roger, maybe you can take it away from here.
Okay, we put out a request for proposal, and then we actually made a revision to the request for proposal, and had a pre-bid meeting last Monday at the site. 3 contractors showed up in person. 1 contacted me via phone, asked for the details. I gave him the same information we had at the pre-bid meeting. One of the primary prerequisites is they obtain a permit from the DOT as to the type and construction methods of sidewalk that the DOT requires within their right-of-way. All the work will be done to the field side of the gutter line and entirely on the DOT's right-of-way. They require a 5-foot sidewalk now rather than a 4-foot sidewalk. That's one of the things. And typically the sidewalk is 5 inches deep, compacted gravel base. So the contractors that were there seemed interested.
When you say 5 inches on top of the base that's below that.
Right, there's a gravel base, so the existing earth is excavated, compacted, then 10 inches of processed gravel is placed and compacted, then forms are set, and 5 inches of concrete go in the forms. The concrete is all reinforced. There are construction joints and expansion joints. They're a little bit different. Construction joints are more frequent and allow the concrete to crack at controlled intervals. The expansion joints allow the slab to expand and contract due to weather conditions, hot and cold. So there will be, the state specifies the spacing on the, both the construction joints as well as the expansion joints. We did receive the cutoff date for bids to be submitted was the 28th. 2 bids have been submitted. They have to be reviewed a little further. They're within $5,000 of one another, but as far as which one is the best bid, let's put it that way, is yet to be determined. If the board would like, I will review them further and make a recommendation as far as sometimes it's not necessarily the best deal to take the cheapest price.
We found that out.
Well, most of us have one way or another.
Both of these bids are for strictly straight concrete
Yes,
sidewalks.
all according to the state standards.
So we didn't ask any of them to submit
We would have to give them some
secondary
sort of,
bids for like paver
No.
work.
that would be done, if you will, after the fact. That would be some type of contingency where we would tell the contractor, okay, we want you to substitute this or this, give us a price. We would then have to write what's called a construction order to change the standard. And we have to get the state's approval on it. And the trouble with the grade out there, pavers are not typically as thick as a sidewalk. I did look at the information that was sent to me by both the board and yourself, and I noticed that was a rehabilitation project. There was an existing sidewalk, and what they sought to do was not to construct new sidewalk, but to rehabilitate the pavers that had deteriorated over time. So they were reset. If you notice, it's all resetting pavers. It's
Right,
not-
in a proper base.
Right.
Right, so the question would be, if we had the proper base and thought about going for the additional cost of the pavers, like what would that be?
It'd be difficult to tell without somebody, going out and pricing the individual pavers.
70,000 to play with, and these bids are 34.5 and 41.4,
Well,
so there's some play there.
that's where you get into the contingency aspect of
But
it.
you're saying then we need to go back to the state, but if we did.
Yes, first off, you'd have to go to the state and get permission to use pavers. I think there's a strong likelihood that they would not recommend it.
Why do we have to go to the state to ask for
Their
pavers
property.
as opposed to concrete? Can we just put a bid out that said,
You'd have to get permission from the state to use something other than what they specify.
so in the state grant, it says we have to use concrete?
No, the state grant is a reimbursement, as far as I understand it. We have to obtain a permit from the Department of Transportation to install a sidewalk on their property.
Okay,
So they specify a 5-inch reinforced concrete sidewalk.
DOT is saying that,
Right.
that's what they want to do.
Do we know what caused the problem in, is that Lennox?
Lennox, yeah.
Can I tell you, I do know the answer because I spoke with Iowa maintenance there.
With the-
May I share that
Sure.
information? I called Sean Van Dusen, who's the superintendent of public works, and he was the one who forwarded the specs that you saw. And he just happened to have them on his computer. And he in fact suggested calling Kurt Wilton, who has a similar job in West Stockbridge, where they are doing a new installation. And what Van Dusen said in Lennox was that when they initially put in pavers, they did exactly what Gordon said. They heaved because they put them in sand. However, what they have doing now, and they have 52 miles of roads in Lennox and 9 miles of sidewalk. And they have a person who does nothing but plow sidewalks all winter. They are extremely pleased with the pavers because they plow off very easily, and they can do much better maintenance on the pavers than they can on concrete. Because the minute concrete gets salt on it, you know what happens, it scours. So the pavers don't do that. So what apparently they're using, according to Kurt Wilton in West Stockbridge, is a polymatrix sand that they put down, and they, the contracts, if you notice, call for hand laying these. They put down an asphalt or a concrete binder, and then they put the pavers in that, and they expect to get 25 years out of those sidewalks. And they're using them in the roads too. So they are extremely pleased. They provided some names, that Foresight Land Service people, I think you have their information. I tried to get the specs from West Stockbridge, I just didn't have time to get it from them because that is a current job. But they were both thrilled, and these are the guys doing the work. They have no problems when the binder is used. And they're all using Unilock pavers, And they were raving about it. They said they couldn't, and visually, I mean, with our Economic Development Committee attempting to create a brand for West Cornwall, I think that when you look at the idea of putting a concrete sidewalk in there that will look like a subdivision in Danbury, you are destroying the visual picture that's essential. I mean, coming up from a covered bridge, do you really want to see, as you said, now required by ADA? I understand you can get slightly narrower sidewalks if you provide wheelchair turnarounds, which is not a possibility in that space. So we're stuck with 5-foot wide concrete sidewalks. I mean, think how hideous that's going to be and how destructive it will be to the visual picture of people coming to West Cornwall to be and see a covered bridge, to be in a small New England town. And I really would urge the board to seriously look at this. I mean, we have knowledge now that we didn't have before. And I think you could probably get the specs, Gordon, you know, from West Stockbridge. They're doing a $400,000. That's how much sidewalk they're putting in up there in West Stockbridge.
Two questions I would have would be, are any of the sidewalks that they are doing or have done are at the same grade that we're talking about?
Grade is not an issue. I asked them specifically.
Well, I think the grade is an issue.
Well, no. In their experience, they have had no trouble with grade. I mean, I asked them that because you were right. You guys had brought that up at the meeting. And so I asked, did you have any trouble? But you understand, they're putting down a base of asphalt or a base of concrete.
I'm just saying that the two questions I have are, have they, the issue of grade.
What's the concern of grade?
uh,
If you have the base that's already concrete or asphalt to hold the paver in,
The concern,
then what's the concern
what the
for
concern
the
is, if,
material?
I think a major concern is having the safest, best traction surface you have. The concern I have, because I went to some places that had pavers, and they have joints in between, and they are not an even when they're flat, you have this little depression in between the points. So
Were they in sand or in
They-
asphalt?
I don't know, no, I think they were laid in concrete. I mean, even if they're level, they were still, they weren't as smooth as just walking on a regular piece of concrete. So the concern is if you're walking down a hill and something's slick, that's the concern as opposed to a main street, which is basically flat. So I think, maybe Rich has another concern, but my concern is walking on a concrete or any kind of sidewalk, it's slippage is our concern. So we want to make sure that whatever we put down is as
durable.
Concrete with
that it holds
frost,
up.
it's pretty slippery too.
It can be, but I think that's over time what has, maybe Roger knows more about it than I do, but over time this rough brushed concrete is what they found has the best traction. So I think that's some of the concern that I would have, and also the keeping everything level.
Yeah, but
I think, so the concerns are,
you like the look of that though? You've seen
well,
it
I think
in
it's all
other
an aesthetic
towns,
thing.
It's,
well,
yeah, or
I said, I went to, wait, can I finish? To do this. I went to Mystic, Connecticut. I went to Watch Hill, Rhode Island, both of whom are at least on a level with West Cornwall. And both of them had concrete sidewalks. It didn't ruin my trip to walk on a concrete sidewalk because I wasn't there. I don't think anybody's going to come to a town to walk on, to look at the sidewalks. They're going to look at the area around it. And in both places, in Mystic and in Watch Hill, what I wanted was to walk on a stable sidewalk, not one that was going, that was uneven. So that's what as a tourist, I was looking for, and the destination wasn't the sidewalk. I didn't go there to walk on the sidewalk, I went there to do something else. And I think the same thing, people aren't gonna come, I think we should do something that looks nice, but I don't think that's the primary reason people are gonna come to West Cornwall. And I've seen some of these things too, where you combine concrete and pavers, and that, I'm not sure the pavers look, in my mind, any better than a regular sidewalk. That's just me. And I think it's just it's an objective aesthetic judgment.
So since it's just you, could you read the letters that you have gotten?
I can reiterate them, but first I want to see if Roger has anything else to add as far as what he knows about sidewalk construction.
Well, as most of you know, I spent a career working for the Department of Transportation. I spent about 50 years working on roads and bridges one way or another. Every bridge has sidewalks on it. What they require on bridges, again for safety reasons, is what's called a stiff broom finish. You take a very hard push broom and you gouge the soft concrete. This gives you the most traction. Last thing anyone wants to do is fall off. They're called safety curves on bridges, but you don't want to fall off one of those into the road. So as far as the DOT is concerned, I'm pretty sure we'd have to talk pretty hard to convince them to substitute something other than the standard they've developed over more than 100 years of building sidewalks. It's for aesthetic reasons, yeah, you can do things like that. I was in Ithaca, New York years ago, and they tore up all the roads and put down pavers essentially and made a very nice square. There's no traffic on it. It's just for pedestrian traffic. But you wait 20 years and it's all uneven. Pavers have a tendency to get rounded edges. They become a little more slippery. Sidewalks, going back to sidewalks on bridges, sidewalks in cities and so forth, have to be as safe as you can get them. The grade up off of 128 between the Moose and the railroad tracks, varies between 2 and 3%. So that's the grade you're going up. I essentially function as an advisor to the Board of Selectmen, and it's the safest thing I can think of is a standard DOT-approved concrete sidewalk. If you want to do something different, I'm quite willing to look into other things, but that's the best recommendation I can give the board at this time, is to use a standard DOT-approved concrete sidewalk.
So my second concern, grade being the first, and a realistic concern, 2-3% is a decent grade if it's slippery. The second thing is, whatever method is being used in Lennox or West Stockbridge, what's the length of time that they've been using it?
5 years is the,
And how long?
is in so far.
How long is it going to last versus what?
They said their expectation is 20 more years. So what's the expectation for concrete sidewalks?
50 years.
50 years.
Before it cracks and gets,
Well, before, that's their usable
weeds
expected
start
life.
growing through and
That's their expected,
Looks
50
even worse.
years for 5-inch concrete sidewalks.
how long has Canaan had their pavers in downtown, do you know? Canaan's pavers downtown, 10 years that they've had those pavers down there. They looked good, they didn't have any
You know,
weeds growing
Gordon,
out of them.
No, it's still grandmother.
and you talked about going to Mystic. I mean, Mystic has a seaport and a huge number of traffic. But there's a large number of people going into towns like Lennox, unfortunately much more than come into West Cornwall. And I think the visual is really important in West Cornwall, because one of the things Bianca has said repeatedly in public arenas is that people drive through the bridge and then they leave. If it's not attractive, if it isn't a visually attractive place, why do I want to get out of my car and walk around and spend some money? I mean, I think the visual is very important in this case. And I would hope that maybe all three of the selectmen could drive. I mean, it's not that far to Lennox and walk on the walks up there. You've walked on concrete, you've been walking on concrete for years. Take a look at it. And as I said, they're using it in the roadways too. So, I mean, you know, and I didn't call the economic development people, I called the highway guys, and they were raving about it. They are very pleased. And the maintenance issue, Roger, where they say where they use this polymatrix sand that they put in, if they have to, you can add, you can upkeep, you know, you can make it look great. Every couple of years you can, you know, it's a maintenance. They can maintain these to look like they've just been put in. And they consider that a real advantage. It doesn't just deteriorate like concrete.
Okay, we did get 3 communications. One was from Barbara Farnsworth. I'm not going to read these, but they're available for anybody that wants to read them. Barbara Farnsworth's idea was that she was opposed to a new sidewalk. She was opposed to the post office sidewalk because of the impact on parking, and she felt that money would be better spent on studying sewer system. Bianca Griggs felt that the concrete slab would be ghastly running down the side of the road. She felt that this is from Bianca Griggs, saying that it's crucial for economic development to get the project done right. And Melissa Andrews quoted her time on this economic EDC committee and talked about it was one of the most prestigious, beautiful villages in New England, and I believe that this will be talked about at the EDC committee on Tuesday. So.
She was in favor of the pavers though, right? Sticking with the authenticity and the charm of the village.
Right, but I'm not sure the village authenticity is defined by pavers. I mean, I don't really make that jump because there was no, this is not like 16th century England with cobblestones or something. I don't think there's any historic precedent for pavers in West Cornwall, so we can't really say they're authentic. I mean, it's all people's aesthetic judgments, which we can talk about for a long time.
She also said
but she has a right to her own opinion, and that's all fine.
Coverage have considered Cornwall the most beautiful villages in New England. And for this, she felt it would be in the best interest of the town to install a sidewalk in West Cornwall in keeping with the village's historic and architectural profile, rather than a typical modern concrete slab. And I got a email.
I don't know, I would think that concrete is actually getting close to 100 years old at this point.
Some of our bridges in town are almost 100 years old and made by the WPA, but you know, I would say that's the best thing that's ever architecturally happened in town.
And then Jackie Schiller, do you know her?
No.
So it says concrete is drab and boring while pavers provide a path to glory. This is some bad poetry ahead of tonight's meeting, just weighing in that losing the granite siding would save some money. Like, I guess the granite edging curving. So she was talking about save some money without doing the granite curving.
I don't think we're proposing granite curving.
There is no curbing involved here at all.
Yeah, I didn't think so either. Was there any thought put into, I guess he has a picture here, we talked
Let
about
me just show you this. This is up in
decorative concrete, dye.
Burlington, Roger. Have you seen those that they've done on Route 4?
Oh, Burlington, Connecticut.
Yeah, exactly. Never mind. But it looks nice with the concrete there too, though. I mean, I see the pictures, we're concentrating on the brick,
Right.
but
Would
the,
that-
like
would that
for the
be
driveway
safer
parts where
for
they have their
that?
concrete, It's
There's
like,
a texture to the paver.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I know, if you're doing it in concrete, you want to
Why
definitely,
are we doing it in concrete?
I'll just look at
So is
things.
that-
and-
so
That's
is
in Burlington and Vermont.
Is it-
Those are brick.
No, it's
not
not
brick.
Connecticut, so is it stamped concrete to look like
it must do like
This
a,
is-
obviously maybe a trowel or something. We
Or
do.
concrete.
concrete stamped to look like
Not
tile?
not stamped, no.
It's just
They've
texture.
cut this
Oh, but
pattern
cut.
into the.
Oh, okay.
So wouldn't that provide you more traction on a slope?
Well, this is a stiff broom finish, in between the smooth
put on.
lines. This is just cut into the wet
But
concrete.
would that allow the cement to actually, concrete to expand also though?
Right, that would be required every so often
Yeah.
as far as an expansion joint. The others are, this is an expansion joint, that would be a construction joint. So
Yeah,
that's
but
what they are.
that would be fine, I mean.
And as, you know, just part of the design.
This is a very tight pattern. Now, this would not be required. This is certainly an option you could do. But you can see the treatment that goes down to the road. Right down there. We would be doing just the concrete as proposed in the plan, just goes straight through, and there would be an asphalt apron out to the road. There's asphalt apron there now.
This is, the asphalt apron is at,
The pink house.
This is in Burlington, right?
Yeah,
Burlington,
right there on Route
Connecticut.
4,
Yeah,
Burlington,
so-
Connecticut. They just did it last
in Bain.
spring.
And Roger, can't they dye the concrete even like a darker
And I like
gray
light
and
posts, too.
something that's not
but
that
those,
white
those
comes
are
out?
pavers there. Those
The
are-
concrete doesn't stay white very long, but they can add color, they can make it red, they can make it yellow, they can make it blue, whatever you want.
Something just hold it down and then,
Okay,
So if the concrete can be
thanks, Casey.
given a bit of texture and design to it, as you're saying,
It's an option.
and we end up
Oh,
with
yeah.
some form of design and some form of durability
That's right.
and simplicity and less concern about the pavers moving. Because I don't think we really can,
You don't move when they're in binder.
Please
You
let them
shouldn't say
talk.
that.
we really don't, the track record hasn't been determined on a couple of years. It really doesn't tell us yet. Lennox has already gone through the whole exercise of redoing them,
In other towns,
rehabilitating them.
have had trouble.
So the concept of what was a great idea has been moved forward now 10 or 20 or 30 years to something else because it didn't work as well as they anticipated, which is true with a lot of building. You try something, it seems pretty good, and then it's determined it's not as durable as anticipated. Again, in that picture, it's level.
Well, it goes, you know, up to where the church is there, right on Route 4 in Burlington. It goes from the one side and then down to the other side. So it is slightly graded.
yeah.
It's like grade. We still have the two concerns of grade and track record.
Okay.
Gordon, a lot of people think they're coming to this meeting in September to discuss what the options are for the thing, but that's not going to be the case, is it? It's just a financial meeting. It's not a meeting to discuss what the options are. And do you think that it would be appropriate for the Board of Selectmen to have a public meeting?
Well, we have to have a town meeting, we have to get the project going soon. And said, I'm also willing to hear better ideas of how to do things. But if I walk on I've walked in pavers and I didn't feel as secure as I did in other places. So, I mean, I'm willing to
Yeah,
review
I
ideas,
hear
I'm willing to look
that.
at
I'm just-
Casey's thing.
I'm
If
just
people
asking
can
whether you're
say
gonna have
whatever
a
they
meeting.
want at a town meeting, that's the whole point of a town meeting. But we have to, some people, as we've heard from some of our correspondents, don't want a sidewalk at all. We have to get over that hump before we worry about the texture.
Yeah,
I
what-
mean, that's, some people don't want somebody said, I don't want to live in a town with sidewalks. So that's another whole,
Yes,
discussion to
I
have.
was asked about the sidewalk by the post office, and in these meetings, we've talked about the fact that if the town does this, then the town has to clear the sidewalks, right? And
right.
it's- and it's
Although other
liable-
people have said that it should be up to the other people. But at this point, we're prepared to
But who
maintain.
is responsible for the sidewalk by the post
You
office?
have to
in
ask
West
an
Cornwall?
attorney. I believe it's the abutting property owner, but
Who put
Try.
that one in?
I assume that's part of the bridge project when they did it, I think, but I'm not sure.
So that it's a state responsibility.
State
So
responsibility.
nobody cleans that sidewalk,
Correct.
but somebody is going to clean these sidewalks.
Yes.
And it's gonna be the town?
Depends. The town's prepared to do it, but other people said they'd be glad to do it. Then we'll see what happens, but it will be kept in a safe condition.
Most of the time.
Right. To do the best of our
Except we
ability.
But if somebody
reserve,
falls on it, the town will be sued.
Everybody will be sued, including
Yeah.
the state of Connecticut. You can
Who's
guarantee
liable?
that.
Is it the property owner, is
Right.
it the state of Connecticut, is it the towns, or the, you know, it may not be the towns, either the owners are either state or the property owner.
But there was no additional cost to the town to have the sidewalks, right? Did we got an email on that
No
from our
additional.
insurance
It's all-
company?
Correct. For insurance, we will have to pay something if we do maintain. I did hear from other people in West Cornwall who thought it was a good idea because they did not want to, they were tired of walking down to the Moose or wherever in a snowbank. So there are people that feel, in general, that having a sidewalk is not a bad thing to have in a town.
So Roger,
So-
you just said there'll be an asphalt apron. Now Gordon had said that the concrete would be, on either side, would have grass on either side of it. So it's grass, concrete, grass, and then asphalt, is that it?
Correct. The existing curb on Route 128 will not be disturbed. So
The
everything-
asphalt is only where their driveways.
There are only two driveways.
Mm-hmm.
One is to Bain Real Estate's office, and the other one is to the Pink House. There are two existing driveways. There are asphalt aprons. We're only talking about literally a 10-foot apron from the street side of the sidewalk to the gutter line of Route 128.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay, any other thoughts on sidewalks?
So Roger, just on that though, like in these pictures of the driveway entrances were the concrete, and the brick was the sidewalks, in the pictures I had here.
Gordon, would you like me to give you, or Roger, any of the phone numbers
Sure.
for the contacts?
Sure, that'd be good.
Will Roger be urged on your part to pursue any of this, so we'll have the information at the meeting?
I can't make Roger pursue things, he works his own report, but I think he does.
Does it work for us?
Yeah, I do. Give the information to the Board of Selectmen, and I'm sure they'll forward it to
Right.
them.
And I know Great Barrington redid all their stuff, so I'm gonna plan to go up there and see that, so.
one of the
Anyway,
things I'd be curious to know is what kind of equipment do they use to clean,
The pavers?
remove the snow? Is there something that is being used that's specific to the pavers, that, as opposed to a blade, as
You
opposed?
might want to ask, I have seen them cleaned with rotary brooms, these front end brooms that
Right.
work in reverse direction. I've seen that used, I don't know if that's
Well, I'm in the conversations that you have, that'd be another conversation, that part of the solution to their use may be a specific piece of equipment that the town of Cornwall does not have.
No, it's not. As I said, they have 9 miles of sidewalk, and they have some asphalt, and they have some concrete, and the guy just plows all day with one machine to maintain the 9 miles of sidewalks.
He uses a plow or a snow blower or what
Wow.
is on
It's
it?
probably like, I see it in Farmington all the time, it's like a little John Deere thing with a blower on it and whatnot.
But it's a blower.
Plows on
Right, that's what
here.
I'm saying.
Look,
There may be a blower instead of.
No,
Right.
they use a
Can I
plow.
just ask about timing? Do we have an idea what the outside date would be on funding approval at a town meeting to get this done before the end of the year? Is it maybe a good idea to put the meeting off a little bit?
Well, that was gonna be my question. You said if we're gonna change from the concrete to something different, we need to go back to the state. So I had asked, because in Massachusetts, they're allowed, as long as they sign a contract with someone, to to continue the work further past that hard deadline. So in Connecticut, are we hard deadline that the work actually needs to be done by December 31st?
Done, bills in by December 15th.
December 15th.
Correct, so we already got an extension.
Bills in or work done? Because
Bills in.
bills in, so
Right.
it doesn't have to be done.
Yes, well, you don't get your bill till after the work's done.
Well, we could.
No. No, bills paid. Everything done, buttoned up, bills paid by December 15th.
I
So
would
have
imagine
an idea what's
somebody actually comes and looks at that too,
Right.
to
So what's
verify
the
that it's
window
done.
from the town meeting approval to getting a contractor in and getting it done? I mean, that's only like a week-long project, but
The length of time for construction would be no more than 30 days. So typically the Board of Selectmen would send what's called a notice to proceed to the contractor, which gives him a start date. He has to have that completed within 30 calendar days. So that's the time frame to do the physical work. The notice to proceed usually isn't given until the contractor has lined up his suppliers and so forth. That's something I typically would coordinate.
what about weather and cold and,
Well, it's only going to take 30 days, so if you get it started by the 1st of October, it'd be done by the end of October.
And if we did decide to go with a different material, how long does it take the state to make
Once the
that
state
decision? It's like
approves,
a day, yeah, you can do the pavers, or it's 2 weeks?
it really depends on the personality of the person you're talking to. Typically, once they approve the concept of the sidewalk, if the town has justification for changing the material, then either the state says yes or no. If they say no, you go back to the concrete, or you drop the project. So it's pretty easy for the state to make that determination. They're not going to weigh the costs, because it's not going to cost them anything. They're not going to weigh the aesthetics. They really don't care. So if we put forth a standard concrete sidewalk, that's the easiest thing to get approved. If then we want to modify it to something else, that's usually a yes or no answer. Usually done within a couple of days.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, any other thoughts on that? Okay, stay tuned.
Another meeting
So-
before that?
No,
This,
no, we don't meet till the 15th, right? We moved it on to the 15th. So we'll meet after that. Roger still has to investigate the bids. We still have to get permission to proceed with some type of sidewalk, and then I assume we would then take into account what we've learned between now and our next meeting and put it on our next meeting agenda.
Do you expect more bids?
the deadline for bids was the 28th. So we cannot, I mean, as long as they were postmarked by 4 p.m. on the 28th, they were acceptable. We got 2 out of 3 contractors that were at the site. The 4th contractor said he would submit a bid. He didn't. It all depends on their scheduling and that type of thing. A lot of times contractors try to work together on various aspects. You have an excavating contractor looking for a concrete contractor. They team up, they put a proposal together. Sometimes you can't get your team together quick enough. So I expect just these 2 bids.
This was put in the paper, or you just called a handful of people and said, hey?
Well, we sent out an invitation to bid to 8 contractors originally. And then from that, those that did respond at all, I realized that they should have a pre-bid meeting. So we sent out a revision to the RFP, inviting them to a pre-bid conversation so they could look at the job, see where it was. And keep in mind that this, is only 240 feet long from tip to tip.
I know.
And almost a quarter of it is in front of the moose. So
Yeah, I was just wondering how many it was sent out to begin with. So 8.
8 originally, I believe the 6 got an updated modification to the RFP.
Okay,
Well, thank you.
Thank you,
Can I
Roger.
just ask if the two contractors that bid, are they could do any of these alternate applications, pavers or standard?
For a few dollars more, I'm sure they could do it. Yes, I'm sure that both the contractors are quite capable of doing whatever type of sidewalk we specify. And that's what we have to do, is come up with anything different than the standard sidewalk that they would get from the DOT. Then we have to send it to the DOT, get their blessing on it, which typically is not a big thing, as long as they're not involved in the maintenance, they're not involved in the cost. They're not overly concerned.
Okay.
But that's just a guess on my part.
Right.
And how much are the bids for that you have?
The bids are roughly for $35,000 and $40,000.
Okay. Thank you, Roger.
Thank you.
All right, next is Ian Huggins' appointment, Park and Rec. Appointed him previous meeting, he hadn't, he was not on the voting list, it turned out. So now he's come on, now he is on the voting list. So I'd make a motion that we reappoint him to Park and Rec.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Next is paving. Paving was finished today. Jim came in pretty close to the quantities. I haven't gotten the exact number yet. It may have been a little bit over. But it looks good. And so we'll get some exact numbers at our next meeting. Covered bridge rehab, I believe
Is there gonna be drag racing now down Bolton
I
Hill?
think there'll be a lot of
Yeah.
skateboarding.
Skateboard.
Yes.
Yeah. Did get a letter that I think I copied to you from the state DOT saying they are
Don't think I saw that.
rehabilitating the covered bridge, which
No, you didn't send us that.
What's the time frame on that?
that is, design will be completed in July 2016, construction anticipated to start early spring 2017. Yeah, I just got, did we get this email, fax, letter? How did we get this, George? Email yesterday. So, I'll get you a copy of it. I did have a long talk with Ralph Daly, who's the project engineer, because potentially rehabilitating the bridge could have much more impact on West Cornwall than even the sidewalks. And I was reassured by our conversation. He gave me some background information. In fact, he had been involved in the rehabilitation project that was done in the year 2000. He said that the current project scope entails replacing inspection cables and cable anchorages, replacing the structural steel members, repairing welds, possible rehabilitation of expansion bearings, replacement of wood planking and broken studs, replacement of internal broken wood lattice members, cleaning out bird's nests and installing of screening, excavation, repair of approach roadways. The present schedule indicates the design will be completed July of 2016 with construction anticipated to start in early spring 2017. Please inform local agency, municipal and utilities, proposed work, and advise the department of any local work that would require coordination with this project. We will be contacting you in the near future. And he gives us the map. So I beat him to the punch and called him instead of waiting for him. It's interesting, they have a pretty thorough history of it. They said that the bridge, they said the bridge was built in 1841, which is a little bit at odds with our 150th celebration last year. But that's all right, it makes it even older. And his his brief current history was that in 1973, they put in a steel bridge underneath the covered bridge. That they're actually two independent bridges. And the current covered bridge actually flexes. So when you have the line dances for the bridge dance, you can actually feel the bridge going up and down because it's supported by, but not actually tied into the steel bridge underneath. So figure that out.
It's like being at the mall.
So he said that some of the steel underneath is corroded. They're going to suspend some scaffolding around the bridge to work underneath it. They may have to tear up the planks. They have to increase the bracing at the ends of the bridge. They may have to do this actually in 2 stages. The good part of our conversation was he remembers that in 2000 we were very emphatic that the work get done as quickly as possible because of our concerns for the impact on the business in West Cornwall. And he estimated it would take no more than 5 days to do all this. I said, I'm impressed. So they may have to do it in 2 different stages because some of it, the work on the approaches, they may have to dig down on the approaches, remove some of the dirt, look at the abutments, whatever. He's looking at possibly March, but he is very open to have a public meeting. And last time they did work, they did it in March, which was held to be the least traffic time of year. I did talk to some merchants down there, and they said March would be a good month to do it in West Cornwall. So, and everybody understands that you've got to maintain these things. But it's obviously something that could have a significant impact, and even more of an impact on the merchants. I stress that it does impact our emergency response. That if you had a call in West Cornwall, now you'd have to go all the way around in order to get to the hospital, whereas now you can go right through the bridge. So that, in a way, even trumps the economic impact with the potential public safety. And this Cornwall covers that side of
Getting
the
to
bridge.
anybody on the other side of the
Right.
bridge.
I mean, that's not as probably as bad as just right in West Cornwall. You've got to go down and then around. Sharon could come, or Falls Village could come and pick up, but it would
15 minutes.
it would delay over our usual speedy response. So
Will the bridge be closed for long stretches?
it sounds like they might put in, yeah, because they have to tear up the floor, put up the planks, and then they're not happy with the planks, and they want to float this idea of replacing the planks with some sort of, he didn't say pavers, but there you go. We might get a place for the pavers yet. They thought of putting some sort of epoxy with a aggregate, basically gravel finish on epoxy. I said most people are used to the planks and using
You have a nice gravel.
my limited aesthetic.
So noisy and annoying.
Well, there you go. I said most people are used to the planks. How do you find them annoying?
They're so loud. Only because I think it's because people just go so fast over them.
Yeah.
But it warns you.
Down, then it might be.
But actually, it warns you that somebody's in the bridge because you don't always see
sure
it.
does.
You don't often see
Hear it.
people on the bridge. So anyway, so that's going to be up for discussion about what's the service going to be. And I said, right now they have white oak from New Hampshire, and the maintenance unit said that it's a lot of work and some of the bolts are breaking off or something. So we might look at alternate wood, although it's hard to beat white oak.
Well, whatever alternate material they use, if they're bolted down, the bolts may still break. I would
Right.
think the material, I would think the flexing,
Right.
the movement of everything.
Is that why they're randomly out there at times working on it?
Yeah.
Is the bolts are breaking?
Yeah. Fixing the bolts, the planks.
So other than the surface, everything else is gonna end up looking just as it is now?
Sounds like it. Yeah. Yeah. That it's more they have to do the underpinnings, which makes sense. So anyway, I'm just glad they're doing it and giving us plenty of warning and chance for people to have input.
Timing it for hopefully for
Right,
March,
it's flexible
or
on it.
April, whatever
Right,
it turns out
yeah.
to be.
Not summer and not summer and not leaf season, so. Okay, so, let's see, last we have, did you get a copy of the land keeper surveyor? I asked, so I can get it, we just got this today. He emailed it to me at home somehow. One thing they're saying here, I mean, it's a range of $5,000 to $7,000. A little bit more than we were hoping, but it's a tricky thing because this goes back to the earliest days of the town. I did spend a little time researching River Road through our files and Michael Gannett's work on town meetings. And in 1799, they were already calling it the Old Road. So, 1799, they were looking at repairing the road, and at 1800, they were talking about having a turnpike company come in and actually take the road over and make it a charged toll road. Ian's house is the Toll House Antiques, that was toll, maybe for the bridge, maybe for that. But, yeah, probably for the bridge. But anyway, so it was old then. So, what? It's a Warren Turnpike or whatever, yeah. It's the same one that the high school's on.
Right.
But and then people objected, so they had to go back to court to get court orders, and some of the court records in Litchfield actually hold the records, not the town vault, because it goes back that far. So there's a little bit of trickiness there. The only question I had for Matt and for you folks is what he's looking at now is surveying the road section that goes between what he calls the abutment of the whole highway covered bridge to the Sharon Town Road known as Kirk Road. Alright, so the Sharon, the old covered bridge, old highway covered bridge to the Sharon Town Road known as Kirk Road, that's also known as the Kalen Bridge, you know what I'm talking about? So that is, alright, if you go down River Road, you go from the paved section down to the dirt section. And then there's one point where you drop down, and then it becomes really narrow. So the railroad track's right there, the road's there, and the river's there. And then you have like 1,000 feet, and then you wind up by the parking lot, which is in dispute. There was the original bridge from Sharon to Cornwall was in that area where you first drop down. You can actually see the old abutments are still there. They're laid stone. So that would be the edge of the Kaufman property on one side, then going all the way up to the Lindholm property, which is past the turnaround, down the straight section, up a little hill, the top of a little hill where the old road from Cherry Hill came down where Bob Sheldon lives and Patience. So that's the extent of the survey. Now my question is there a point in really doing the land from the old bridge abutment to close to the parking lot, because there's no real land there in dispute because it's all water. So if we shorten the survey, I guess my question to him is, we make it a shorter survey instead of having to go out in the river or whatever he's going to do, is that really important at this point?
I
And how
wonder,
about further past, like towards Lindholm, do we need to go that far?
Well, there is-
Really just
there is
survey
land.
the area in question.
There's land that goes along the river like that, and then the land stops there. So there is land, there is land
I
that could
think,
be disputed.
to answer the question from my perspective,
You want the whole
this
thing?
is, well, this is all of this is Kaufman's property, except up
Right.
here what's
Cut out.
what's
Page.
cut out from, right.
Right.
So, to me, it's all or nothing.
All right?
Partly because, two reasons. What he's gonna research is gonna be all or nothing,
Right,
because he's gonna research
the whole thing.
this property.
But he will survey it, he will actually do a field survey.
I know, but that's probably not as, I don't know. And tying into the
It's-
bridge down here, I bet
Right.
he has to do that anyway, so that's probably
Uh-huh.
gonna be the most
Yeah,
absolute point.
it might be worthwhile surveying that bridge too, because that's another parking lot, is right at the
Right,
bridge.
I mean,
So
to me,
who owns the bridge?
there's no reason
Who
not
owns
to
the
do the
bridge?
whole thing. It's a whole piece over here. The bridge has gotta be a more absolute point.
Uh-huh,
And I would say that the reason to do with the upper part is because this is possibly, or potentially more parking if we needed it in some way.
uh-huh,
If we end up with some issues here we're not as happy with.
okay,
I mean, I don't think
You've
the,
already said that the land abutting the river belongs to Kaufman. Not
beyond the
town.
right of way,
Beyond the right
but the width of the right of way is the question. And a lot of times the road isn't necessarily sitting in the middle of the right of way,
of way.
and how does the
Right.
railroad?
So how
work?
much of that land
Right.
on the river
I
side?
mean, the only thing here is, I mean, there's no real, I mean, you got the road, then you have beam rail, and then you have some rocks. So this is
So
not,
what's the point? So why would you pay somebody to survey 1,000 feet of rock?
I agree, this, now that I think about it, this is an important area also to decide who owns this
yeah,
thing here.
yeah, because it's
That's
the
another,
next, it's
the other
the
thing
next
too is,
access area.
as this is so narrow, you need to have pull-off areas. So you sort of need to know, can you pull off here, can you pull off there?
I mean, at some level, if and when the town needs to do some repair there,
Right.
at some point in the future, it would be nice to know
Where it is.
where we're, I would think that to even to survey this, he'll be back here setting a transit, he could probably set all that on one, almost one shot, or two, because,
You can almost see it.
I mean, it wouldn't take, it's,
That's probably a minor, yeah.
I mean, I think that's a minor thing, because it's a wide open area, and they can see quite a distance. It's not like we used to have to pull the tape, and now it's all electronic eye, and somebody holds a pole, bing, they have the distance, they have the height, the
Right.
elevation, the whole.
His major, half of the cost is traversing the perimeter. Perimeter smaller. But it would look kind of, yeah, it would look a little incomplete to have a gap in the middle of each of it.
I would say you do the whole thing.
Okay, is that a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion that we accept
Right.
Landkeefer surveying for the full job description and the scope of the survey that they're offering.
Now, bear in mind, there is no money in any budget to start surveying the side of the road, and you can imagine you could survey all the roads, what we'd be looking at.
Minor detail.
Minor details, so we would have to, we have some money in, our legal line, this will be put into the legal line. And we'll have to keep track of that.
Well, we're not specifically needing to survey all the lengths of roads
No.
because they're not in dispute.
I know, but I'm just saying, here's another cost, which is one of the reasons why we have the contingency fund. But that is probably, we don't anticipate doing a lot of surveying. So this would have to come out of the contingency point at some point. But we are a third of the way through this year, quarter of the way through the year. And I don't see how we get our answers without having this done.
So I guess the motion includes that it be paid for out of the contingency fund.
Okay, I'll second that. Any discussion?
Does your email really have an E in Ridgeway?
I'm surprised it got there, but anyway, the internet works in mysterious ways. It got to me somehow. Surprised it even had one either. But anyway, so, all right, so any more discussion on this proposal? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Public comment.
No, dirt road maintenance.
Oh, sorry. We have dirt road maintenance.
Okay, so I live on a dirt road, and it's pretty horrid, but I never complain because I like my dirt road, but other people are complaining a lot about Flat Rocks and River Road.
Okay.
And the potholes and the washouts, and I know we have some funds available in the road capital fund.
Yeah.
We
Or-
spent some of it to do Cherry Hill, so I'm hoping that we can, I don't know what's left out of that capital budget, that some of it could be used for some gravel
Yeah.
to actually fix these areas that are troublesome instead of expecting Jimmy to pull the same sand back over year after year after year to get washed away again and again and again.
Right, we have money under road materials that we put more gravel in there. I mean, I did go down the road, I did not feel it was that, bad, and we can,
The potholes are
there are,
pretty horrendous. Have you been on Flat Rocks?
I have not been on Flat
Oh,
Rock.
you gotta go.
Yeah, so we will get up to Flat Rocks.
Where are
We'll
the
get-
potholes, on your side of the,
Oh,
on the other side?
I don't have potholes, I have runoff. It's like just where that last storm that we had, that big one last week, it just washed all of the sand away. It's just-
You must have,
I bottomed out in the
I didn't get
Volvo.
any right now.
Okay, I didn't even complain when I went, the Volvo bottomed out, I didn't know, I said, okay.
Uh-huh.
But when other people start calling me, I'm like, yes. So it's pretty
Yeah.
bad, I mean, that sharp corner, it needs some gravel.
Right, no, we can get up there. You're just busy with this stuff.
Yeah, I know,
But-
and you
And
were
then
doing
the other
the-
thing Jim did say, he went out and looked at stuff, that when everything's super dry too, if you cut it right now, it turns everything to powder. So it's better if it is wet, which we can't do much
I
about.
know.
But in the
But he
meantime,
needs material to work with.
Right.
He can't just keep pulling the same sand back up.
right, so what we can do is get some more material.
That would be
All
good.
right? Okay, anything,
Even the material's probably bone dry too.
right, but at least we can, I mean, I think what he normally does a final grade in the fall, we can
Right.
do something now.
But he needs enough material to actually make a crown, so that the water can run off and not
Right,
just
well-
wash away.
All right, well, we can talk to him about that.
Maybe we could pave the road.
That's why I don't complain, okay? It's not me. I'm not complaining.
With sidewalks.
With sidewalks, sure.
Cobblestone, slow everybody down.
Yeah, I can take a walk down Flat Rocks.
Okay, anything else on dirt roads? All right.
I just have one other question, because you sent us the email from Park and Rec, Sydney Ormsby asked about the soccer lines.
Yeah,
So who has done that in the past?
Jim did it, he got tired of it, so he handed that off to Jake Robert, and I suggested to Sydney that she contacts Becky to find out who was doing them last spring. So I'm not sure who the answer is for this fall, but Robert was the last one I knew who was doing it.
And we paid him to do it, or we just bought the materials and he did it?
No, we paid him so much to do it. It wasn't huge, but it was regular, because I think, let's see, there was, and I can't remember, so, I mean, there's some cost sharing between the town and the school, because both use it, and also the Northwest United kicked in some money too, so, but it will be heavily used. Okay, anything else? Public comments?
Yeah, I wanted to ask about the tree in Calhoun. They didn't get to do earlier in the season, but I
Right.
wondered,
Yeah,
they're gonna get to it?
they should, yep,
Okay.
so,
Which trip?
the second.
The big half-dead one right by the southern entrance, right by the road.
Okay.
You see, it's
The
all
stub,
there in
is the
center.
stub or the other one that was dying?
The what?
Was it this, they took the top out of the one by the south. This is the second one?
Corner, right, because they took that one down
They
completely.
took, well, the guys took that down, and then, Mike Reed came and
Took the
rest of it.
took the trunk out.
The
There's a
other
second
tree.
one. Yeah, there's a smaller one.
Well.
We were oh, I know what the
That's
plan
more
was.
north
The
of
plan
that
was
section.
because that was far enough away, we were trying to get Fred Scoble to get in there with his lifting. So that's our plan.
Okay, good.
Right.
And the other thing, I was wondering, this survey that you're having done, is this related to all the executive sessions that you keep having?
Yes.
And so it wasn't able to be resolved, and now we have to
Now we
proceed?
decided to find out where the edge of the town right away is.
Okay. And does whoever the parties involved, do they have to pay for part of the survey, or is the town absorbing all the costs?
At this point, the town is absorbing all the costs.
And if you find out that he or she is wrong, will the town be reimbursed?
I'm not sure the answer to that.
Do you think you should be?
What I think should happen often isn't what really happens in the big world. I mean, I would like a lot of things to
I have
happen.
no doubt that you have an opinion, though.
I do have an opinion, but as it is still a possible litigation subject, I don't really want to. Pop off in my
This
opinion.
is to proceed with litigation?
No, this is just to find out who owns
This is to proceed with a solution.
a solution. We're trying to find out who owns what in that part of town, so we can hopefully come up with a mutually beneficial solution to the thing. And this is to try to preclude litigation.
And the property owner could do the same,
Right,
do his own survey.
you could. So,
Thank you.
stay tuned. You're welcome. Okay, bills and bank reconciliation.